Good day, everybody. We have yet another awesome guest on our show today, and it's none other than Sanjay Sehgal, who's a compulsive entrepreneur, a global businessman, a startup advisor, keynote speaker, philanthropist, and who's received umpteen number of awards. I mean, a lot of things need to be said about him that before I go and share, it'll be better if we can hear it right from the man himself. So warm welcome to you, Sanjay. It is awesome to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Thanks, Sangeeta. Thanks for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here.
My pleasure. Thank you. So like, this is the Fly High series, which is about finance, leadership, and your high performance. So before we deep dive into the topic, I would love to hear from you. If you could please share with all of us what has been your journey that led you to become the chairman and the CEO of MSys Technologies.
Sure. You know that what comes to mind, Sangeeta, is a very old Urdu couplet, I mean, I'll just say it in Hindi and then translate it. That journey has been such that having reached the destination, one wonders that where I have reached. What it actually means is, that I never planned to be where I am today, right? And I think I have always been a person who took life as it came, and it brought me here, so I am here, right? And the journey has been wonderful, of course, and it has been made wonderful by the number of associations I've had along the way, and the things that I have learned along the way. And I think it has been I had a very, to be more, I would say, practical. I had a humble upbringing in Delhi, New Delhi. I grew up in New Delhi, and my father used to be a clerk with the central government there, and 3 siblings. And I know the hard work he used to put in to make sure the family gets the best. And I think from those beginning, or from that beginning to where I am today, I have a lot to thankful for to him and to everyone else around me. So I think with this, I think I have, I wish the listeners could get the idea that nothing is small, nothing is big. Is take things as they come and enjoy the journey. Once you're able to enjoy the journey, then you'll be less stressed out about the destination or the goal that you have set out for yourself. Often I find in many of my interactions with entrepreneurs and other businessmen that they are really stressed out because they're not able to achieve the goal, I think, and they don't enjoy the journey, and I think it's like going in a plane or car or to one place to another place. Enjoy the journey. After reaching there, of course, bigger things will await you, but once you enjoy the journey, there's a lot more to be gained.
Yes. So that sounds like a total transformational journey from where you started to where you are. And what really resonates with me is, you said you're grateful. So being thankful and gratitude, I think, multiplies the effect a lot more. So I think that's so amazing. So as a successful entrepreneur with, so many vast years of experience, what are some of the key financial metrics that you track in a business?
See, this is the 4th company, Sangeeta, that I'm managing, right? And so it's been an evolution of sorts, if you can say. But I'll share something interesting with you. Just last week, my son he's 25 years old, and he just graduated, recently from Georgia Tech, and he's currently working. He asked me, what motivates you? Is it money? How much money has part in motivating you, right? And that made me think, meaning this is the 4th company I have started. Was money ever the motive for me to do these things?
Mm-hmm.
Then I was thinking, when I was telling him, I said, it's like I'm like a farmer. Only thing he knows is how to cultivate.
Okay.
And I mean, he doesn't look at, okay, I cultivate this, cultivate that. I mean, of course, he has a strategy around, this is a season for this, he knows that well. He knows his trade well. he cultivates well, and after that he knows the people will going to come and buy it, right? So for me, it has been like that. Coming up with new things, new businesses, new ideas is I would say my attitude, is my habit. you know,
Awesome.
money is never the motive for me, has never been. So he was asking me specifically, oh, do I look at this matrix? That's just similar to your question. And I say, well, of course, I need to make sure that the bills are paid, the lights are on, and employees whom we have hired, their families are taken care of and everything. So I do look at, yes, the people we hire and the money coming in and money going out. I have certain guidelines that I have set for my team. But beyond that, on a daily basis, I don't sweat over it.
Hey.
And having said, so for me, it's very simple. The margin of the product, margin behind the product we sell, there is a minimum, and there is of course, there is a general margin, or a optimum margin, and the minimum that we will go for.
Right.
Beyond it, and the same thing with expenses. And every once in a while, we do look at, how we are spending and how we can optimize those expenses. Beyond that, and I'll tell you, I think the person who introduced us, our VP of HR, she came from a large company, and I tell you that she was in the habit that every expense that she's making will be approved by someone like me. I said, no, I have set the guideline for you. Now you take care of it. Now,
Awesome.
within that, you decide whether it is 5,000 rupees down, $10,000, or for 50,000. I am not going to ask you. Now, if you make a wrong decision, you have to bear the consequences yourself, because then your next project will suffer, right? You will not have enough budget for it, but I don't have to ask me. So for me, I'm from that perspective, I would say I'm a easygoing. It is money coming in, money going out. I think everything else takes care of itself, as long as you have the right margins and the right expense structure. I am not looking for making a big pot of gold. At the end of all this, Sangeeta, somebody once told me that instead of Kohinoor is one diamond.
Mm.
I look for string of pearls.
Okay.
Right? So there are many pearls along the way, and
Right.
those pearls are the incentives that we all get monetarily, financially, and I think that's kind of strategy I have formed along all the companies. I never founded a Facebook or a Google or an Apple. There have been companies which have given me pearls. I would say that's good enough.
Right. Excellent, excellent. So it really sounds like you are such an empowering leader. You're empowering your team to go and take those right decisions on your behalf. I think that's an excellent strategy that you follow. So that drives me to ask you, what are some of the key leadership qualities that you look for while recruiting a team member, especially at a senior level? What is it that you would specifically look for?
See, Sangeeta, one of the, I would say the business leader or business motivator I'm fond of, his name is Simon Sinek.
Me as
One
well,
of
yeah.
his, so I think one of his talks, and I'm very fond of his talks about the Navy SEAL. He
Yeah.
said, he asked Navy SEAL guys how they hire. I think, they kind of draw a two-dimensional 2D chart. He said, well, if you have high performance, high trust, middle performance, high trust, middle performance, high trust, they rather go for a person who is a mid performer but high on trust,
Yes.
because that's, I think, the criteria. In a way, to me, that's what a sign of a good leader is. The joke around that is that someone that you can trust your life and wife to. Right? I mean, it is someone that who, I mean, I think for me that is, see, you can always upskill a person,
Mm,
right?
mm,
I
mm.
mean, if they lack something in their performing their duty, they can get trained. They can, you can hire a more senior person who can oversee their work and things like that. But attitude is something you can never teach somebody. That
Absolutely.
they have to learn on their own in their going through the journey of life. So to me, that is the definition of leadership or management or manager, a person who manages his life. So if suppose I'm interviewing a person and I find this person is blaming the circumstances for things that he couldn't do in his life, For
Right.
me, it'll be a big no-no.
Mm.
He's blaming others rather than taking responsibility himself, right?
True. True.
And so there are things like that. I have a criteria like that, but it all boils down to the attitude, you know, the
Yes.
attitude the person has. So I always go for that. That rates very, very high with me. That what kind of attitude the person has, what kind of trust the person can, generate of his colleagues, associates, and myself.
Right.
And so far, I'll say the life has been good. It's not that I haven't had bad hires. I have had bad hires. I had to, at times, take the tough decision of letting people go. And I mean, that's kind of part of the journey. I would have, in my life, would have hired thousands of people. And so, of course, it has been, but
True.
so far, so good, I would say.
Yes.
This philosophy has paid me so far.
Excellent, excellent. So yeah, trust and attitude, I totally agree with you. They are essential and key parameters. So attitude, yes, you gave us a nice example. So I was wondering, when you're meeting a person for the first time, how would you evaluate the trust quotient?
See that I think the like I mentioned to you about the leadership. I think if a person has learned to manage his life, learn to lead his life in a good way, he could be good trust. He could be a trustworthy person.
Right.
You know, is he a guy who is going to keep blaming others, circumstances, people next to him? You know, ask a typical question we ask a person: why did you leave your previous job? Oh, my boss was not good, company didn't do this to me. You can't trust this person.
True, true.
Right?
Yes,
Because the as they say, the four-letter word starting with S, that does happen to every company. That's not monopoly of any single company. I mean, things do go wrong. I mean, we all know what happened in the last 15 months. None
yes,
of us were prepared for it, right? and
yeah,
and I think I mean, it's so that does show the tough times show you the character of a person.
yes,
So when you give them some examples of a tough time that they will be made to go through, and then hear their response, that'll tell you a lot about them.
yes, yes. No, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And thanks for sharing that. That will be a lovely takeaway for people to know what sort of thought process a leader has before, taking the right person on board. Awesome. So I'm also wondering, how do you think an organization should invest in the growth of their leaders, and how is it they can nurture the culture of high performance within the organization?
By letting people do their work.
Sounds so simple. Wow.
No, I mean, but it's very hard. Do you
Hmm.
think, I mean, I am telling you after so many years of gray hair on my head, I was not like that myself,
Okay.
I
Hmm.
mean, see, when you're a young entrepreneur, you want to do everything yourself.
Hmm.
You have I mean, you are taught to believe in yourself. I mean, that's the kind of quality. Your idea, the way of doing things, I mean, that's what makes you entrepreneur in a way. I mean, traditional definition, right?
Right. Right.
We in some of the mentoring sessions, I call this a Steve Jobs syndrome, right? So people kind of walk around as if everybody's a Steve Jobs, right? If I have an idea, you cannot have a second idea about it or second thought about it, right? That's it. I mean, my idea is the best, right? So I think I think that such leaders, I mean, such autocratic kind of leadership
Hmm.
is needed in the life of a company, or was perhaps more prevalent few years ago.
Right.
Now, if you see in 2020,
Hmm.
now, I mean, this decade and onwards, things are changing. You see all those companies, including starting from Apple,
Hmm.
have made the transition to the next generation of leaders.
Yes.
And what are those leaders? Inclusive leaders.
Hmm.
Tom Cook, Satya Nadella, you name it, and the Google guy, the Mastercard guy, the Adobe guy. I mean, all these people that you see, and they all are now the new generation of leader. Uber went from the founding CEO to the next guy who was known to be a very inclusive leader, right? And what is that inclusive leadership? That is to let people do their job to the best of their potential. And how do you nurture them is by empowering them.
Hmm.
How do you nurture a plant?
Mhm.
Right? By giving it nourishment, right? By giving it the fertilizer, the right soil, and right kind of, environment. So right environment, creating that is very, very essential in nurturing a leader in your company, right? And to me, empowerment is one of the best things. And if they fail, they will learn. Failure is, I mean, I would never say failure is not an option. Failure is one of the options as long as you learn from it.
True, true, very true.
Not learning from failure is not an option. you
Yes,
know
agree, agree.
so
Yes, yes. So you are saying that the best way to go about it is to empower the teams and let them do what they're
empower the
supposed
team,
to do. Hmm.
that let them define things. And because if Sangeeta, I have done, as I told you, many venture funded companies as well. And one of the best advice I had received from one of my board members was that when I was CEO of my first venture funded companies, he said, you want to hire a person as a, he said, if your VP comes to you with a problem, right,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
doesn't give you a solution to that problem, fire him, right?
Right.
Fire him. He said it means he's a director level person. I'm just giving you a more practical thing. A director level person will identify the problem and will come to you for a solution. A VP level person will have the problem and with it give you possible solution options and may ask you to choose one, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
other way they say is that you may have heard this: the fool, the wit, the wise. You can kind of always identify uh, the fool, but it's very difficult to identify an intelligent person, and
Yes.
very impossible to identify a wise person. you know so
True.
that is something. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes, I absolutely agree with you on the solution part. In fact, in the early stage of my career as well, that was something that was drilled onto me, by some of my board of directors to say, hey, if there's a problem, do let us know what the possible solutions are. And I think that's really, really essential. So that is an amazing thing that you brought about and shared it. So, what would be your words of advice for upcoming entrepreneurs as well as startups? Now, again, you said, it's good to let people do what they are meant to do, but that is coming from you at a
yes.
high level. So I'm also
Uh,
wondering, how do you manage conflicts within the team?
I see. Well, I mean, first, let me answer your first question of the entrepreneur's advice, and then I will say that how do I manage conflicts. So I think, as I told you, I've been I started young myself. I did my first company, and I was not this kind of a person. As I said, I was this guy with full of self-belief, arrogance, all that, was there in me as well. And I learned my lesson the hard way. And I would say that to budding entrepreneurs, and they don't need to kind of worry about, they need to focus on the company rather than changing themselves at this time, right?
True.
First thing, I mean, that really two major things I always tell startup entrepreneurs. One is dream big, think big. Second is fail fast,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Yep.
And I think many companies we see, they are, these guys are not dreaming big. I mean, they're saying, oh, I will just do this, a small software or a small hardware or a small device or a small shop or a retail. And that's, I mean, it's good as a livelihood. It's like we call it lifestyle business if you want to do.
Right.
But if you really want to utilize your time to create something big, solve a big problem that people that is looking for a solution, right? Solve
Correct.
a big problem. Look at how many people are having this problem today,
Mhm.
and are they willing to pay for it. And then there, of course, there is other matrix that goes along with it. But I would say all that can be categorized as think big, dream big, change the world, right? This is your time. And second is, as I said, fail fast. If
Mhm.
at any given point in time you realize that it's not working out, get out,
True.
because there's more in you than one startup.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
I say,
And
yeah.
I have seen so many people are stuck. I mean, we hear, of course, stories about all these the Flipkarts and Amazons and all that, and we feel, very, very happy about it. But you don't know behind every such company, there are at least hundreds and thousands below them in the ecosystem,
Yes. Yes.
not able to make it, not able to find their footing, fail
True.
fast, get out, right? Very
Yeah.
essential, actually, these things, and to understand. And conflict between founders is a very common thing in every startup, I'll tell you.
Yes. Yeah.
And thing which has always helped me in dreaming big, in failing fast, and in managing conflicts is the practice of meditation in my life.
Yes.
Fortunately, Sangeeta, I started this meditation when I was 23 years old.
Wow.
And in fact, I mean, even my folks at home, parents and all, they were surprised that, oh, everybody thinks that, when you're old and you're about beyond 60, retired, you meditate at that time. I mean, to me, it's meditation is not religious. It's about improving yourself, being able to withstand all the pressures of life. See, I wish we were given a manual. When we were born, we were given a manual. Do this, do this, do this at this age. Nobody gives us a manual.
Yes.
And everybody else around us seems to have a different manual. I mean, everybody gives you an advice. I mean, your parents give you an advice, friends give you an advice, your mentors, relatives, and they have their own manual. I mean, we end up writing our own manual, unfortunately.
True.
And the best way to understand yourself and to withstand all the things as they come along is a practice which can help you be within yourself,
True.
listen to the voice of inner conscience, right? And that has helped me a lot, whether it be conflict, whether it be failures. I mean, I remember when I did my first startup, and we perhaps would have had, I would say, 50, 60 rejections from VCs before we actually raised our first round of financing. And my co-founder, and every time we'd come back from a trip to Sand Hill Road in California, and we'll come back, and I would not see him for 2 days, and I'll be in the office next day morning, and then I would ask him I used to wonder, where does he go? He said, I cannot sleep for 2 days after I come back with so many rejections. It takes my sleep away, and I have to really recoup, out of all that. And he said, how can you? I said, well, I go home and I just meditate, and then it's okay. Next day, I'm back. I mean, I know, another day, another dollar, as we say in US. I mean, it's like, it's okay. It happened. I mean, we're not the only ones who's faced this situation.
Yes.
So I think I would advise doing a practice of self-development, and meditation definitely is one very prominent one. But any practice like that helps you grow as a human being is very essential in one's life.
Correct.
We should always question ourselves that, am I a better person today than I was yesterday?
Absolutely.
If you can answer that question,
yes.
I think I'll leave you with that.
Yes, absolutely. I always say that we need to do a self-appraisal. So, and like you said, meditation, yes, I'm also into meditation for the last 15, 16 years. And I really find the difference and the transformation. And like you exactly said, you feel a lot better equipped to handle things. And yeah, it has nothing to do with religion or anything. So I think, yeah, that's a great advice. I mean, not just for conflicts and failures, but I think it's a great thing to make meditation as a part of life. The daily yes. Amazing. Thank you so much, Sanjay. That was like a lot of words of wisdom and advice, and I'm sure the viewers looking at this would feel a lot enriched, and I'm sure they have a lot of takeaways which they will start implementing, and that will lead them towards a better lifestyle and enable them to fly high. So thank you so much. It was awesome to have you on the show today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Sangeeta.